The Amityville Horror stands as one of America's most infamous haunted house stories, a tale that has captivated audiences for decades and spawned numerous books, films, and documentaries. But beneath the Hollywood glamour lies a dark and tragic history that continues to intrigue both skeptics and believers alike. On November 13th, 1974, in the quiet suburban village of Amityville, Long Island, a horrific crime shook the community to its core. Ronald DeFeo Jr., the eldest son of the DeFeo family, methodically murdered his entire family while they slept, his parents and 4 siblings. Each victim was found face down in their beds, shot with a .35 caliber Marlin rifle. What made this crime particularly chilling was that none of the neighbors reported hearing any gunshots, despite no silencer being used. During his trial, DeFeo's defense attempted to argue insanity, claiming that mysterious voices in the house had commanded him to commit the murders. While this defense ultimately failed, with DeFeo being sentenced to 6 consecutive life terms, it planted the first seeds of supernatural speculation about the property at 112 Ocean Avenue. Just 13 months after the murders, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, moved into the Dutch colonial house. They purchased the property for a remarkably low price of $80,000, roughly half of what similar homes in the area were selling for. The Lutz family was aware of the house's history, but being skeptics of the paranormal, they believed they could make it their dream home. What allegedly followed was 28 days of terror that would become the basis for Jay Anson's best-selling book, The Amityville Horror, and the subsequent film franchise. The Lutz family reported experiencing a series of increasingly disturbing supernatural phenomena. George would wake up at 3:15 a.m. every morning, the estimated time of the DeFeo murders. Kathy experienced vivid nightmares about the killings. Their daughter claimed to have befriended a pig-like creature named Jody, which left cloven hoofprints in the snow. The paranormal activity reportedly escalated. Green slime oozed from the walls. Swarms of flies appeared in the middle of winter. A crucifix on the wall repeatedly turned upside down. The family claimed to hear phantom footsteps, doors slamming, and disembodied voices throughout the house. The most disturbing accounts involved physical transformations. George Lutz allegedly found himself becoming increasingly aggressive and bearing an uncanny resemblance to Ronald DeFeo Jr. Perhaps most famously, a Catholic priest, Father Ralph Pecoraro, who used the pseudonym Father Mancuso in the book, attempted to bless the house. He reported being slapped by an invisible force and hearing a deep voice command him to get out. The priest fell ill shortly after and developed mysterious blisters on his hands. On January 14th, 1976, the Lutz family fled the house, leaving behind most of their possessions. They claimed the final night was so terrifying that they feared for their lives. The family never returned to collect their belongings, choosing instead to move in with Kathy's mother in nearby Deer Park. The story might have ended there, but the publication of Anson's book in 1977 transformed the Amityville case into a cultural phenomenon. The book sold over 10 million copies and spawned a successful film adaptation in 1979, starring James Brolin and Margot Kidder. However, this success also brought intense scrutiny to the Lutz family's claims. Skeptics began poking holes in the story. William Weber, Ronald DeFeo's defense attorney, later claimed that he and the Lutzes had concocted the haunting over several bottles of wine, planning to profit from a book deal. The priest's story was questioned when it was revealed that he had never actually entered the house, only blessed it over the phone. Subsequent residents of the house reported no paranormal activity whatsoever. Yet the Lutz family maintained their story until their deaths, passing lie detector tests and never wavering from their account, despite the considerable skepticism they faced. George Lutz, in particular, became frustrated with how Hollywood had sensationalized their experience, insisting that the reality was far more subtle and insidious than the special effects-laden films suggested. The debate over what really happened at 112 Ocean Avenue continues to this day. Some paranormal researchers point to the property's history before the DeFeo murders, claiming the land was once used by the Shinnecock Indians as a site for the sick and mentally ill. Others suggest that John Ketchum, a supposed witch who fled Salem, had practiced dark magic on the property in the 17th century. The house itself has undergone several renovations since the Lutz family fled, including changing its distinctive quarter-moon windows and the house number to discourage tourists. Despite these changes, it remains one of America's most famous addresses, with curious onlookers still driving by to catch a glimpse of the notorious property. The Amityville Horror raises intriguing questions about the nature of haunted houses and our fascination with them. Was the Lutz family's experience a genuine supernatural encounter, an elaborate hoax, or perhaps something in between? A case of mass hysteria triggered by living in a house where a terrible crime had occurred? The story's enduring appeal lies partly in its ambiguity. Unlike many ghost stories, the Amityville case is anchored in documented tragedy. The DeFeo murders undeniably happened. This foundation of real horror lends credibility to the supernatural claims that followed, even as it raises questions about how trauma and tragedy can haunt not just people, but places. The case also speaks to deeper cultural anxieties about the American dream. The Lutz family sought to create their ideal home life in a beautiful house at a bargain price, only to have that dream turn into a nightmare. Their story taps into fears about what might lurk beneath the surface of suburban prosperity and the idea that past violence can poison the present. Today, the Amityville Horror remains a cautionary tale about the potential dark side of homeownership and the possibility that some places might be irredeemably marked by tragedy. Whether one believes in the supernatural elements or not, the story continues to resonate because it suggests that the past is never truly past, that history can reach across time to affect the present in ways we might not fully understand. As we approach the 50th anniversary of the DeFeo murders, the Amityville Horror shows no signs of losing its grip on the public imagination. New books, documentaries, and films continue to explore different aspects of the case, each adding their own interpretation to this complex and controversial story. Perhaps the true horror of Amityville lies not in any supernatural occurrence, but in the way it forces us to confront our own beliefs about reality, truth, and the possibility that some questions might never have satisfactory answers.